somebody sent me a picture of you and said, you know how when you hear a person's voice on the radio and you have an image as to what they look like, Greg Russ fit that image for me. He's exactly what I would have pictured in my mind.
Who sent that, and what picture did they send? That
one where you're like in that blue button-up shirt and you're with the long sleeves and you have your arms are akimbo.
It's such an old picture at this point.
Yeah. But you don't really change at all. You always look the same.
It's in the parking lot of the 101 Diner in L.A.
Oh, that's from L.A. You're so cool being from L.A.
They shut that place down. It's a shame. I think it reopened with a different name, but it was a very cool restaurant.
You love a dinner.
I do, but the diner is dying because millennials don't like diner food.
That one across from me is begging for servers and like managers and stuff. I feel bad for them.
Well, in general, the restaurant industry is begging for servers, right?
Not really.
I thought the service industry as a whole, people are above it these days. They think, I'm too good for that kind of job, so not for me.
No, I think that would be more like fast food stuff. So maybe that's what you're thinking of.
No, I feel like in general, you've got this whole slew of people who, for whatever reason during COVID, reassessed themselves and their worth and overvalued themselves and said, you know what? What I've been doing is absolute shit and I deserve better. What a fucking stupid way to think. And they said, I'm not working in retail anymore. I'm not working in service anymore. And if I have to, it's going to be begrudgingly. And if you come in, I'm going to make sure that you know that I hate the fact that you're there.
You know, I hear a lot about people talking about customer service and how it's really poor but I don't know. I feel like I have decent interactions. It's like maybe 1 out of 8 interactions I have. Someone's like, yes, what, no. And like, don't say thank you or have a good day or how are you, you know? But otherwise, I feel like things are pretty chill.
I don't know. I don't go out enough.
Yeah. And also that stuff about like people not being able to get jobs or, yeah, a lot of that. This is not a conspiracy. This is like what I've heard from people in a hiring position, that it works both ways. Like both sides can use the system to continue getting your unemployment or whatever support. You have to just apply to jobs and make appointments and then prove that you have the appointments and then just don't show up to them and that's fine and you'll still get your money. And then the other side, the hiring side, is as long as you say that you're hiring, you can still receive money, or at least it was like this for COVID. You could still receive your money from the government because you're like, we're so understaffed and no one can work because of, people are afraid and, sickness, whatever. And so all that stuff about like, we're hiring, no one will work. This generation is so lazy. It's like, well, I don't know how much of that number is tainted with either side of the using.
At some point, you'd have to prove that you're hiring people, though. You can say that I'm trying and nobody wants to take the job, but I think it's known that 100% of the people aren't going to take the job is a lie. So I would assume at some point, if you're getting funding, you would have to show paperwork for hires because you're at least going to find someone at some point, even if they don't last long. So,
well, you don't. That's the thing. Like you put people out there to like you accept applications, and then I think what they were doing was just not hiring anybody because
well, if you're accepting the applications, that means you're getting applications, which means there's people who want the job. So that in itself goes against the narrative that nobody wants to work.
Yeah, but I doubt that the narrative, the authors of that narrative are really digging into anything like that. They're not like, show me the receipts. They're like, oh, this is what the businesses are saying. So that's what's happening. People will try to take advantage of anything. I know that exists on
any and all sides. I surely tried to take advantage of unemployment when I had it.
It's human nature. It's how we survived.
I liked getting an extra. It wasn't the full unemployment because I was laid off. I got the full unemployment for a few weeks, which at that point was $400 a week. I think it's now $505 or something.
Wow, a week?
In New York, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They changed that during COVID.
To more?
Yeah, to 505. And people got more because then the federal government was throwing in money during that time. And it got to the point where it was more money than a lot of people were probably making working.
Sure.
So that's part of the reason people reassessed. Like, hey, what the fuck? I don't get paid that much at all. The government's giving me more than I would make. But
right.
when
it
I
must
was
be worth that much.
When I was, quote, unemployed, there is, if you're working contract, you need to deduct days. So I forget the exact rules with unemployment, but if you work one day out of the week, you don't get unemployment for that day. So the amount they would pay you would go down some, but you could still get unemployment.
Yeah. So you were still trying to get like a little bit?
I knew that I was on the fence because I was being hired freelance to do work, but they hired me as a W-2.
Okay.
Which is kind of shitty when it comes to classification of workers anyway.
I know. How is that freelance if you have a W-2?
Exactly. I had no guarantee for work. They would just book me like, hey, we just need you for 4 days next week. We just need you for 2 days this week. I'm like, okay. But the way I was being paid was through W-2. And they could have at some point said, we don't need you ever again. So the W-2 classification disqualified me from being a freelance contract worker.
Right.
Even though that is what I was doing, but I still claimed that I was freelance. And the days I didn't work, I would still claim unemployment.
I see.
And I was thinking, and I do think this across the board, and it's like, people are fucking lazy. I don't trust anyone to do their job well these days. What is a professional? It is hard for me to trust anyone in any kind of position. And I don't know. I don't even necessarily think that's the sign of the times. I think it was maybe always like that. And just as I got older and became an adult myself, I realized that other adults are trash.
Okay.
I was like, oh, and now, come on. Adults, when you're a kid, they are these beings that are responsible. Not all of them, obviously. And if you grow up in a household with some adults, parents that aren't responsible, then maybe it shades your view. But in my mind, adults were to be trusted and they were going to do the right thing and get the job done. And as time went on, I'm like, what the fuck? Nobody gives a shit. Everyone's just trying to get theirs and get through the day and get to the next day. So thinking like this about unemployment, I was like, whatever. These people they don't fucking care. Then I get a letter and it says, we have reports that you're being paid. And they knew I was W-2. They had all the information. And I had to pay them back like $2,300.
Oh, I remember that. That's where that came from.
Yeah.
I remember you. That sucks.
I still wrote
$2,300.
I still wrote a long letter and I said, this is bullshit. The classification is trash. I am freelance. I mean, I didn't curse, but I'm also making a point to people who don't care. They're not the ones who set the laws or require companies to bring people on in any certain manner. They're just like, look, we have one thing in front of us, and
they just have the information. They're not like, oh, I better move this up the ladder because this guy's got a point.
You may not like the rules, but we don't make the rules, so we don't care.
Yeah, and then if you want to change the rules, go ahead. And you say, well, all right, well, what's the process for that? And like, I don't know.
I just got a response that said denied, and I had to.
Was it a big red stamp on the letter that you wrote? Had like a coffee cup stain on it?
Just to keep you excited, I'll say yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's exactly what it was.
Yes.
It was a rubber stamp that had been used so many times. It was kind of worn out. So,
yeah.
The I and the second D weren't even fully stamped.
And you could tell that the person who stamped it was smoking a cigar when they did it.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew it.
It smelled and there was ash.
Yeah. Denied. That's what the guy said.
So there you go.
This lazy bum denied.
Fantasy achieved. But you bring
Susan, bring me more human flesh.
You bring up the generational thing. I don't play in that. We've already established this on the show. I don't play in that arena, the generational thing. I think across the board that everyone is a fucking idiot and everyone's fucking lazy.
I think everyone is everything. And
I'm not just assigning those attributes to Gen Z or millennials, though. Absolutely millennials do suck. Millennials blow. I'm a millennial. I hate the people in our generation.
I don't hate any generation.
You should.
I do have a little bit of a disdain for the typical boomer mindset, but I would not. Which is, new things are scary and wrong.
Is that the typical boomer mindset, or is it just the typical as you age mindset?
Well, okay, so I saw one thing about lead poisoning, and I thought it was interesting. I have no information on whether it's true or not, but because lead, was not seen as a danger until like the 70s when they started weaning it out of like gasoline and toys and shit.
Paint.
And paint,
yeah. It was the paint on the toys.
Right. Okay. So, and even like anyway, so there's some theories about long-term lead exposure and how it can affect the brain and its experience of the world. And some of the aspects of that seem to be a little bit tied to the silent generation and boomers and their behavior.
But there's still lead around. You live in an old house, there's lead paint under the other paint.
Yeah, but you're not being exposed to it.
I remember my sister, and this was probably...
Like I said, in the gasoline and like in things like that it was, and kids put toys in their mouths. Yeah.
Well, I remember my sister, and this was probably long after leaded paint was used. They were painting her room, and I don't know how old she was, 2.5.
Uh-huh.
Took an eye off of her for a second, and she had licked the paintbrush, and there was paint all over her tongue. I remember my mom freaking out, thinking it was maybe leaded paint.
Uh-huh.
I guess it would be on the can if it was leaded. You can't really do research on the internet that day and age, so you just had to look at the can and say, oh, I guess there's no lead here.
Is there an ingredient list in paint? I feel like the ingredient list would be like paint.
By that point, I think the regulations were in place.
I'm sure.
I don't even know if there
was. What year was this?
I don't even know if there was still leaded paint. It was 80-something.
Then no, it's definitely not in the paint. Unless that paint is 10 years old.
Could have been.
You think so?
No,
could have been.
I think my dad went to the Sherwin-Williams.
Yeah.
And picked up some paint. Always likes painting, that guy. Still painting to this day. Painting old family friends' houses. I told you, he can't deal with retirement. He doesn't know what to do. I was down in Atlanta 2 weeks ago at this point, and he went outside and mowed the lawn in 100-degree weather. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Was he okay doing it, or was he?
He was fine.
Because I was out. I went to the car wash, and then I was getting stuff off of my hood because sometimes I park under this tree and like the birds poop on it or something, and then it like, I don't know, it turns into like a stain on my car. So I was getting it off. I was sweating and I was so hot. I felt dizzy. I was like, I'm gonna do this at 7 p.m. instead of right now. So I was thinking about your dad.
I know doing things in the heat is not a good thing and he shouldn't be mowing the lawn. I even said, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. How old is he?
He just turned 63.
Okay. So he's a young man.
But he when his body starts to break down, I think he's going to get very depressed.
Well, maybe it won't break down as quickly because he is so active.
Because he goes out and mows the lawn in 100-degree weather. I have this yard here at my apartment, like a little courtyard area. Mm-hmm. And a few months ago, the grass area was total dirt, and I've regrown the grass. But nice. there's still some ivy that needs to be ripped up, and the flower bed is kind of messy. And I tried to lure my parents up. They used to come up, especially my mom. And Kristen.
I remember. Yeah, with your sister.
And I understand that Kristen has 4 kids now, and it's difficult for her to come up. But they used to visit. My dad would come a few times, but now it's been, I don't know, 7 years since they have been
Wow.
here. They never even went to my last apartment. They haven't seen the apartment I lived in for 5 years. And so I'm talking to them. And my dad, for a year now, has been saying, we need to come up. It's been too long. I'm going to come up and visit. And I'm talking about this yard. And then suddenly he's really motivated to come up. He wants to come up to New York to do landscaping and garden work.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Sure, it's sweet, but it's also strange.
Right.
It's like, oh, yeah, now I'm going to come up because there's something for me to do and fix.
What's he really trying to fix? Wow.
I knew you were going to say that.
Wow.
You're so predictable.
Wow. So deep.
See? People like him, that's why the older generation says we worked hard. You don't know what hard work is. And maybe I don't. And I shouldn't have to. That's the beauty of it. Not knowing what hard work is not a bad thing.
Right. It's what you would hope for your next generation is to like not have to work as hard. But then you look at them and you think that they're lazy and it's like, you guys don't know anything. It's like, well, you set this world up for me, so I don't know what you want from me. Am I supposed to be like, afraid of not having food and I have to grow my own vegetables or my own whatever so that I don't starve this winter? Is that what you want?
Well, people set up the world and then they didn't let go. They didn't turn the world over. That's a real thing. And it's, generational by default.
Again, it's that thing where it's like the next generation is stupid and wrong, so we can't hand it over.
Well, in the past, the generation that followed usually had a better life than the previous generation. But it is a real thing where it's like, for the first time, the generation may not be better off than their parents were.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And there was a lot of setting things up. And this, I see, I don't want to attribute this to boomers. It just so happens to be they're the people. If it happened with our generation would have done the same thing. You give anyone some kind of power, they're going to abuse it.
But what I think our generation might do instead is say, you got a point. No,
okay, they would give you the lip service and then they would pretend to care and they would post online and say, yes, things are unfair because this whole equity, equality thing, that is a bunch of bullshit. People, I think, believe it and want it, but they don't actually want to do the things. Meaning, if you're in a spot to actually help someone get to the same level as you, but it requires you to give something up, who the fuck's doing that? Not many people are doing that. So at that point, it just becomes a show. And then they make up for it and they overcompensate because true equity and equality is everyone just getting the same treatment and you're not thinking with a different set of criteria and factors because someone has a different skin color or sexual orientation. You're just like, hey, you suck. You're not good enough for the job. I'm not hiring you.
Right.
I didn't think about the fact that, you're white or black or Asian. That didn't cross my mind. But you're being treated equally because I've let a bunch of other people know that they suck and aren't qualified for the job too. But instead, people overcompensate and talk about how that the privilege needs to go. Everyone should have the privilege. That's the level you want to get to instead of punishing people for having privilege, analyzing it and saying, all right, this exists and therefore that creates an inequality. That's a fair thing. And you can start to figure that out. But it's like these people who say that the things they want and then they put on a big show and they persecute other people and go after them. Like, look at me. See, I'm doing what I need to do. It's like, oh, but you know what would have been easier for you to step aside and give your job to someone else who's maybe more deserving of it and it has a different skin color. No, I'm not going to do that.
Well, again, I'm not trying to say that the millennial generation is better. They're still going to do stupid things and mess things up just like every generation. So I don't think it's fair to say
there's still anyone gets something.
That's what I was saying. Like everybody sucks.
Anyone gets a taste of power, they're going to run with it. It's just the way they present that power that's different. They're like, oh, I'm kind of embarrassed that I have the power. Not really, but amongst their peers, it's what they have to say. So they say different things. Whereas the generation before was all about hard work and this is what I need to do. And look, I work so hard and I earn these millions of dollars getting to be the CEO who has an outsized salary compared to everyone else. I earned this, and then now you say, "Well, I did, yes, I'm here, but I'm
give other people the chance, the opportunity to earn that
by it." But I should stay here because I'm the only one who can do good things in this spot because I understand and get it. No, leave, step aside, give up the money, give up the power. No, I'll never do that because nobody ever will. It's just human nature. It's the same thing with unions and corporations. And look, if we're looking at it on paper, I'm like, union, yes, I think people should get paid a fair wage. They should get paid well for what they do, especially when it's skilled work. And fuck corporations and their endless profits. But when unions get power and they get the upper hand,
oh yeah,
then they abuse it, and then it becomes, well, that's a job for 5 people. No, 12 people will be hired for the job. Why? What? See, then you fucking tax the system and you strain it, and then nothing gets done. You look at the MTA here, which is the governing body of the subway. It used to run. It's not a for-profit company. It's not a non-profit. It's a not-for-profit. It's a service. And it used to run at no deficit. And then it began with the stupid government fucking it over by, the ski resorts in upstate New York are having an off-season. Take money from the MTA's budget and give it to them. And then they eventually forced them.
Who did that?
I forget. It was a governor at the time. But
yeah.
There's a series of articles that was in the New York Times maybe 10 years ago at this point, but it was very interesting. And then they started forcing the MTA to take out debt. Like, we're not going to fund you as much. Just take out the debt now. And it was kicking the can down the road because one day that debt would come due. And that's where we have been over the past decade. It's like, oh, that debt's due with a shitload of interest. And now you can't pay it off. But the politicians at the time got to protect their jobs and get reelected. And look at me, I'm slashing budgets.
And look how successful we all are. See all this success?
Yes, because in their mind, it's like when this comes, the chicken comes home to roost. Like, I won't be around. I'll be done. I'll have gotten mine. And that's what happened. So, at the same time, then the MTA unions, it's like they want to expand the subway line, one of them. They've been talking about doing it for decades. To build 3 stations costs some ungodly amount of money. And look, I know it's a big undertaking, but whatever budgets are set, you may as well just triple or quadruple them because they're going to go over. And you look at the amount of money, no wonder nothing gets done because there's really no money to do it because you've set these ungodly standards, bringing in hundreds of people to do a job that maybe needs 100 people. And that's an arbitrary statement in terms of the numbers. I don't know what the job takes, but that is clearly happening. You look at Shanghai, and sure, those people were probably treated like shit, and it was slave labor, but they built a whole subway system in like 5 years, a very extensive subway system. I'm not saying you need to go that extreme, but there's middle ground where people can be paid well to do a job, and it can also be done in a timely manner without bankrupting a state and a city.
I agree. It's wild what happens. I mean, you're saying that phrase, right? That absolute power corrupts absolutely. You can't get away from it. It's just, if you have a lot of power, it's going to get abused.
And anyone who's in the position is going to abuse it. This idea, oh, well, if I could just get to the power, things would be different. No, it won't be. You're not above it. Maybe there's a few people here and there, but it's not enough to tip any scales.
There were a bunch of interviews with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was the governor, and he said, like, he really went in there with the best of intentions. And of course he would say that, but I just thought what he said was interesting when he said that he was presented with problems and he was like, oh, I can see the solution. The solution is to, I think it was a drought issue. And he said the issue, the fix was pretty simple. But once he started making moves toward that easy and like logical fix, then some like farmer lobbyists came to him and told him like, you can't do that because we've promised this, this, and that to these farmers and ba-ba-da-ba-da. And he said it was just so difficult to get anything simple done that it really made him pretty annoyed and didn't want to do it anymore.
If you were going to do it properly, you'd make the hard decisions. And when you make hard decisions, a lot of people aren't going to be happy.
Right.
That's just the way it goes in anything, government, business, like even in the workplace. We had a bunch of layoffs in January. Those were going to happen anyway because the economy was slower and profits were down. But with the merger that happened and two companies coming together, there was a bunch of clashing, especially in my department. And there were people from my company and the people from the other side, and nobody was making any decisions. And when you make those decisions, somebody is going to have to concede. They're going to have to give something up that they like. They're not going to be happy. But you got to get things back on track. Instead, they just let this thing flounder for a year. And then, half the people were laid off in the layoffs. And maybe that would have happened anyway. But I think when you're looking at things and assessing who's going to go, like, this department's in disarray right now. How come? So somebody above eventually makes the decision, when if you had just had the balls to make the decision in the first place, and maybe, again, maybe they weren't empowered to do it. I don't know the full story, but making decisions, I think, if you're going to get in government, is an important thing. But when you piss off half the people, you won't be reelected. So
and you have to get reelected because maybe you really do want to try and do good things. So
no, if you cared about doing good things, you would go do your term, do the good things, and then say, I'm not going to be reelected, but I did what I could, and I made some changes, and I feel good about that.
Yeah. Apparently in France, there are politicians that, like, if the public doesn't like them, then they'll just step down. Like, if you don't like me, that's fine. I'm leaving.
I don't know what that's born out of. It sounds like a nice thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad, because maybe, the public doesn't know really what's going on.
Handing over power is a nice thing. It's like, look, you don't like me, fuck you. I don't give a shit about the power. To me, isn't
that very French way of thinking too?
It's the biggest fuck you can give to people. It's like, I hate you so much. Look, I don't care. Take the power.
Take it.
Fuck you. That would be a nice thing to do. But no, we've got these loser scumbags. You saying that, Arnold getting into office, I believe that he really wanted to do good, but also he'd already been successful. He already had fame. He already had money.
Right.
So
there were no stakes.
It's easy at that point to be like, well, I really just want to go in here and do good, because nothing, my career, nothing, in regards to my career is on the line.
Right.
You could make the argument if he's a bad politician, it ruins his movie career and he stops acting. But at that point, he's already established and set.
But even as a celebrity, you can kind of get away with stuff like that, because he had, if he had political scandal and his like personal scandal with that like maid or whatever he had a child with, like, all right, you already had.
No, he never did that.
Yes, he did.
No, how dare you besmirch?
Yes, he did.
He would have never cheated and had a child with a maid.
Oh, are you joking?
I actually don't know about it.
Oh, it's true.
When did this happen? Who was the maid? Who was he married to at the time?
Wasn't he married to like fucking what's her face from Twins? In the movie Twins? The one that he has sex with in Twins?
Arnold, child, maid. Oh yeah, Maria Shriver.
Thank you. That's who.
Oh, this is all new. I mean, I know it's not new news, but a docuseries came out in June on Netflix.
I watched it.
Is that where you learned about this?
No, this is just news that I remember from a million years ago.
How dare he? I thought he was a good guy. I thought he was a Terminator, a robot, didn't need to have sex, was above those things.
That's right. Take off your clothes.
Apparently not. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I think, though, if he's only had one kid with one person and cheated once, it's a good job. There's a lot thrown at
For
him.
someone with a lot of power,
There's
you know? And he's like, I'm coming in the gym all the time. It's like, I'm coming all the time.
That's the funny thing, that there is this whole movement. It's like people abuse their power. No shit they do.
Right.
It's like, and all these men who are in positions of power and get women to do things because it could affect their careers. Yeah, that's a real thing, and that's a fucked up thing. And putting an end to that is important. But, there's still other abuses of power. And when these people talk about how we need to rid the dynamic and the imbalance, it's like they would jump at the same opportunity. I'm not saying to, sexually assault someone, but to be in that position.
You're not
power.
Saying that?
No, I'm not saying that. Well, I don't look, if you were to ask me in a vacuum, if you told people there's no repercussions, that a lot of people would sexually assault others. So yes, I do believe that too. I don't buy for a minute that there'd be plenty of people who wouldn't. Like it wouldn't be like 98% would. And
I wouldn't do it.
2% wouldn't. But
I never have a need or an urge to sexually assault.
I still think it would be a large percentage, like 30 or 25% of the people would, if you told them they could.
Maybe if I was drunk. I think, being drunk and sexual assaults would probably skyrocket if you knew there were no consequences.
And again, it may just be 25%, but that's still a large percentage.
And then if you think, that is the existence of mega celebrities who are single and, they have so much. It's so easy for them, first of all, for people to, I'm thinking of a male celebrity and women sort of throwing themselves at them. And then when you set your sights on someone and they're not really responding the way that you expect, because you have had it thrown at you so much, you've built up this like idea of yourself that, you think, well, I can push a lot further than a normal civilian could. I think
it's fucked up thinking.
It is fucked up thinking. But again, it's just like the power thing. It's just same thing as the power thing where it's like, well, I may not be doing the right thing here, but if I give up power, then I'm going to lose my position here and I don't want to.
I feel like a normal person would say, all right, you're not interested in me. There are a bunch of women throwing themselves at me. I'll go find someone else.
Right. But I'm me and I want you. So shouldn't you be so flattered and impressed that I'm seeking out you and you're not throwing it at me and I have to,
It becomes a totally different thing. It is ego and power at that point. It's like, you tell me no, nobody tells me no. I'm right. James
And I don't think
Franco.
that they would even.
Is that guy back yet? I feel like he's just been in hiding, waiting it out.
Yeah. Well, then that Amber Heard shit came out and I feel like he probably was, God, keep my name out of here.
What was it? I didn't.
Well, because he was sleeping with Amber Heard while she was still with Johnny.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh yeah, it really didn't matter. I just meant he's trying to lay low and, his name was being brought up. There are plenty of celebrity sex pests.
That guy from that 70s show, I had no clue.
Me either. What is his deal? He was drugging people? The fuck?
Again, I didn't read. I had no clue any of this was happening until
I don't even remember him.
Until I saw the sentencing of 30 years to life, right?
Man, that's bullshit too because, pardon me, but child rapists get less years in prison than that. People who beat up their wives or girlfriends or, partners get less than that.
So what are you making a case that he shouldn't be in jail for 30 years? Or
no,
life?
I'm saying that everybody, you're sentencing him for that much. Why don't you sentence other people that much? I don't understand the willy-nilly sentencing laws.
Whatever it was, he raped people.
Damn, but he drugged them.
And see, I didn't get into that. If he drugged or not, it's still.
Well, obviously.
He was Scientology was protecting him and maybe even encouraging. I don't. Fuck. But I had no clue. Are they going to take that show out of syndication now, I guess? I would be pissed if I was one of the other cast members. Thanks.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, asshole. I was getting residuals, and now this show will never be shown again because you.
Well, okay. Who is unsuccessful from that show? You know what I mean? Who is relying on that syndication?
Fez.
Yeah, he's not doing much. He's also a sex pest.
Is he?
Yeah, I've heard that he's also like kind of maybe not a sex pest. I've heard that he's a dick.
Fez.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I even cared about that show.
I know. I never watched it.
Well, I don't know who else. I mean, the redhead, she didn't do anything.
No, wasn't she on Orange is the New Black?
Oh, yeah, she was.
And then Mila Kunis is fucking skyrocketed. And then...
well, she and the Cooch.
Yeah.
And then the other guy. The guys whose basement they hung out in.
Oh.
Red Son.
I don't know who he is.
He was Topher or something.
Right. But I don't know who he is. Does he do anything?
He was Venom in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, all right. Well, then he's good.
Well, I mean, that was it was a long time ago.
Oh, that was an old Spider-Man?
Yeah, that was the one with Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
So look, those people, they were getting some kind of residuals, and that's out now. And maybe that 80s show will have to make a comeback. What's his name from It's Always Sunny was in that 80s show.
He was? Who?
The guy.
Which one?
Their names are slipping my mind. Not Mac, not Charlie.
Oh, okay.
Who's the other one?
The skinniest one?
What's his name?
I don't know. Think of the smell. You haven't thought of the smell, you bitch. Dennis?
Yeah. I don't know why I couldn't remember.
The smell.
Dennis was in that 80s show.
Poor Dennis. Can I say, Dennis, have you seen him lately? He is, well, even on like the new seasons, he is too thin.
Glenn Howerton.
He's like sick. Something's wrong.
Maybe something is wrong. So many people hide their, let's hope not. But
I hope not too. Either it's that or an eating disorder, because he really is so thin. And then sometimes I see clips from the podcast that they do all together, and he'll talk about like what he's eaten, and it's like nothing. I'm like, dude, something's wrong.
That show has been on for a long time.
Forever.
Like
it's still so good.
They really did age before our eyes. When did it start? It was on before I moved to New York. I moved to New York end of 2007. Are they on 16, 17 years at this point?
Yeah. Is that math? Then yeah.
Number of seasons. I like that show. I just don't watch it. It's 16. They've done 16 seasons.
Yeah, I'll do like I'll put it on and watch a couple episodes in a row. Kind of thing. And I think, man, this show's great. I do the same thing with South Park. It's like I don't watch it for sometimes years. I go back and watch some. I'm like, damn, this show's amazing.
I've never gotten into South Park. I don't know if it was all the hype from the start. Because we were in high school when that came out. And we were right there in the wheelhouse.
Oh, I loved it at first because it was so weird and like, gross and shocking. And then instead of it just continuing to be that, it evolved into something so smart.
Such social commentary.
Well, it but they do such a good job.
Biting satire. Look, I know, and especially the way they turned it. Have you seen the documentary of how quickly they turned it around? Yeah, shut up. Shut up.
Shut up. Why do you want them to shut up?
Because there's still people quoting that or referencing that documentary. They turn it around? Have you ever seen that documentary where it shows what they could do to turn a show around so quickly? Yeah. I know. There's a reason that people reference it. It is a lot of work, and to maintain a quality and level of work under that kind of timeline is something to marvel at. It is.
Have insane. You seen their thing about Casa Bonita?
No, I haven't seen anything.
So there's an episode where they go to this place called Casa Bonita, and it's this Mexican restaurant, but it has like cliff divers and like I don't remember, but just like really stereotypical fun Mexican, like like a nacho chip hat, or something, And it was Cartman's favorite place, and he went to these great lengths to be able to go and, screwing over his friends and all that. But, Casa Bonita ended up being this very important sort of marker in South Park timeline history. And so I think there's a real place called Casa Bonita, but it was in disrepair. And so Matt and Trey bought it and just like put, so, they've got so much money. So they were able to just like throw money at this project and like made it just like they had it in the episode.
Which is cool.
It's really cool.
Where
It's just so strange. I mean, I love their
Where does
attitude.
it exist?
Gosh, I don't remember. I'd have to look it up. Casa Bonita.
It requires a lot of work. I'm too lazy. And not to say that I could have ever achieved that level of success, even if I weren't lazy. But
It's in Denver.
So much work goes into it. Like I mean, talking about my dad earlier, it requires that kind of work ethic to do something like they do. I'd prefer to just lay on the couch. I don't know. I don't feel like doing anything. It's fine.
Cliffside diving.
You know what lost me with them?
What?
The talking piece of poop. I thought it was dumb. I was even grossed out by it. I think I was kind of into South Park. At one point, I did have a sticker. I liked Kyle for whatever reason because I felt like nobody else did. And so,
What? Kyle's great.
well, when you're in high school, it's like
everybody loves Cartman.
Yeah. And so I bought a sticker from the Gadzooks.
Gadzooks.
So there was a point that I did like it. I still didn't watch it. I didn't feel like I had to watch every week. But when that talking piece of poop came, I was like, well, this is...
Mr. Hanky, the Christmas poop. He loves me and I love you.
And even that inflection in your voice that they all do, that annoys me.
Hanky!
Yeah. Look, obviously I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I guess there's no right or wrong, but I'm in the minority here. I know so many people love it. I think that, the way they speak, especially Cartman, and how that inflection shows up in all the other characters that person does, and the talking piece of poop. I mean, it didn't gross me out or anything. I just thought, even when I was younger, like, that's dumb.
Well, that's still early days.
I know. That's why it
Park.
lost me early.
Right. So especially now, their voices are a lot more relaxed. You should check it out. It's really good.
I watched the one that everybody was talking about with the Harry and the woman, Markle.
Oh, right.
I said, okay,
That's a good one.
I'll watch it. It was okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's okay. That one's okay.
Well, everyone's like, oh, tore them a new asshole.
Well,
yeah.
everyone. Are you talking about Eric, who like finds things a billion years too late and then talks about them nonstop?
It's like, sure. And I could see them being annoyed by it, Harry and Markle.
Oh, speaking of, I watched The Whale. Well, I didn't watch it. I started watching it. And Eric was saying like he watched it and he was crying at the end and stuff. I did not.
You just said you tried to watch it.
Yeah, I didn't finish it. I got like a quarter of the way through. And I was like, this is
made you too uncomfortable.
Melodramatic and not... I didn't like the acting. Well, maybe the acting's fine. I didn't like the...
I think the daughter's acting was a little over the top.
Yeah.
I hate you.
I know. And then the way the way that he was portrayed is like, well, I'm just trying my best, and like I just want to get to know you more, and I know I messed up before, but now I'm fine. It's like
I bought into his performance more. I also, for whatever reason, I'm forgiving. It's like I watched the movie. I did cry at the movie, but while I was watching the movie, I also thought this daughter is like, this is too over the top. The way she comes in with a huff and slams things down. It's like, so you watched, people acting as angsty teenage daughters, and
well, even the girl that comes in at the beginning, the friend who's like, let's kill this partner. It's like, okay.
But it doesn't. Those things, I guess, when I'm watching the movie, it's like some people see that and like, I'm done. I'm finished with this. It's like, okay, that exists. That's the way that's going. But I'm still able to watch the movie. And
I don't. It felt heavy-handed. I just didn't think
I can see that.
And I've been, like I said, I've been watching My 600-Pound Life, so I'm very familiar with the behavior of these people, and that did not, so far, at least what I saw so far, it did like not match up.
Well, there you go. You have a couple reasons you don't like it.
Yeah.
And you can't get into it.
I tried. I switched over to Victor Victoria instead. I was trying to watch something I'd never seen before, because I'm always just like rewatching the same shit.
You need to expand your horizons. That's what's a problem with you. You're too narrow.
Oh, I'm so narrow. I'm very open in many other ways, but when it comes to like what I
Seemingly not.
consume,
You hate Taxi Driver, but you love Joker.
I loved Joker.
But that's an unpopular opinion. So many people hated Joker. And the reasons, they stole from the Scorsese films.
Yes.
The incel thing.
Well, I don't.
My whole feeling on Joker was, it's fucking Joker. Look, if it were a movie not based on Joker from the comic books, then some of the arguments against it, and meaning this is going to stir up the incels and there's going to be violence. It's like, fuck, come on.
No, that's just a political talking point.
Yeah, I wouldn't buy into that necessarily anyway. But if it were just a weird movie where a guy loses his mind and starts dressing up as a clown and incites violence, then I could buy into that part a little bit more. But it's like everyone just seemed to forget that it was a fucking comic book movie. It was Joker. So viewing it through that lens, the amount of discussion and dissection, it's like you're going way over the fucking top with this. It is about.
Do you mean in their criticism of it?
Just in general with it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a lot of it was criticism in the way people never even gave it a chance because of what it represented in the current climate of society.
That's stupid.
I was like, it's fucking the Joker.
And it's a movie.
But,
chill.
But it wasn't like somebody made a film about a loser guy that had no comic book lore, decades of it behind him, who decided that he needed to kill society so people could know and glorify it in the process. That's the Joker, the comic book character. That's what it was.
With Taxi Driver, I just didn't identify with anyone. And if I did, they weren't really a part of the movie. Like maybe his friends that maybe the guy that thought he was a weirdo, that was his other taxi driver friend that he would meet at the diner sometimes. We're following this guy around. I was like, what the fuck? I don't really. I mean, he seemed sweet. I enjoyed the sort of weird balance between his pent up aggression and weirdness, but he was also kind of sweet in a way. Like he seemed to care about the people he hated in a way, but I just didn't. I was like, whatever. I don't get it.
I related to him. This whole opening speech about the rain washing away the filth. I was like, yeah.
See, I don't have that. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's a dude movie. It's like, hey guys, hey men, you guys feel this way and you feel like you can't express it. Here's a character for you.
Do most people feel that way? I don't know if they feel that way. Whether or not you like the movie, I think at the end, there's always been that debate about whether or not it was a fantasy. The articles praising him and him being a hero. Was that what he thought was going to happen? Or is that what really happened? Well,
it's absolutely what he thought.
I used to really like the idea that it's what he thought would happen. I like the idea of, this psycho turning into a hero. But the writer, and even Scorsese, I think at some point, I saw this once, but I know that Paul Schrader, the guy who wrote it, did say that it was reality. It wasn't a fantasy. And he liked the idea of it actually, like me saying a psycho turning into a hero, but he liked the idea of our society really doing that. Like, this guy is absolutely insane, but he's a hero. And then the man who was the psycho becomes like an idol in the city and amongst the society he hated. And I thought that was kind of cool, because how would Travis Bickle reconcile that within himself? Because he hated everyone. Now suddenly everyone loves him because he killed some people, a pimp, and now he's this hero because he saved this young woman.
Well, I mean, that's a real thing. I remember there's a story that Adam Carolla has told where a friend of his that was like a real degenerate, not a good guy. He, outside of his window, he heard some commotion, like in the bushes or something. And he came out and this girl was being sexually assaulted by this guy. And so he beat up the guy and saved this woman's life. And he got the key to the city. But everybody that knew him was like, this fucking loser is getting praised.
So those are interesting things to explore. And somebody who claims that they hate everyone in society, and then when society loves you, do you drop those feelings immediately? Probably. Because I feel like those people, if they just felt accepted, would probably drop their feelings. But, you get to a spot where you kind of do it to yourself, too. And you dig in, you isolate, you compound the problem, and then you're like, fuck everyone. That's not why I hate everyone, by the way. I just watch the way they act, and I do think they're idiots. And if they decided to praise me, I'd be very annoyed at their praise. And I'm like, how dare you? Don't fucking praise me. Don't even look at me. I want nothing to do with you. I don't want to be a part of your club. Your club of coolness.
Club of coolness.
Well, it's usually the division is that person's a loser, and
oh, okay. And now you're not a loser, so you're.
And they want to,
cool.
yeah.
It's like, no, I want to be a loser still.
Well, I put coolness in quotes. It's not really cool.
No, I know what you mean.
I've never felt, nobody understands me, and I'm just an outcast. I've never felt that. I just see how incompetent
See, I don't think that people
is.
would drop. I don't think that people would just drop those feelings. I'm thinking about high school and how there were like the quote, like you said, cool, and then other. And if for some reason all the cool people were praising me or like I won them over in some weird way, I wouldn't then think, well, I'm a part of them. It would just be like, oh, I'm accepted by them. And I would still just be myself.
I feel as though in high school, especially when you're more susceptible to all this, I guess it depends. If you're in a group and that group has an identity, like the goths or something, the skaters, it's like, are you going to abandon your friends? Probably not. Some people would. I guess it, case by case.
If you're just wearing that goth or skater like as a costume because it's not really you, then yeah, I guess so. But
if you're an actual
for me,
loner,
personally, yeah, I wasn't a loner, but I just had, just like I do now, like a small little group. And then everybody else either knew me or didn't, and it didn't matter to me.
But what I'm thinking about is if you're an actual loner, you don't have friends, and you've turned on everyone because you don't have friends, and you isolate, and then suddenly you're accepted. I think that people
they'll take it.
Maybe not. It's hard to say. I feel like in high school, especially, most people probably, if they, yes, I'm accepted now, and then maybe they drop all the negative thoughts and feelings they had. But
maybe.
But I would, if I think of myself in that situation, I like to think I would pretend to be excited about it, and then I would operate as a mole from the inside and try to take each and every one of them down. With some revenge for being mean for all the prior years.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Yeah. But who knows? It's just
it's a mole.
Just a fantasy. We never officially.
What would you find out? Like,
well, I wouldn't be.
So and so gave head to so and so at so and so's basement party.
Sure, you can take people down with that in high school.
She's a slut.
It was like the time I wrote that Lost and Found article when the internet was coming, growing out of its infancy and becoming a teenager, and at school, a couple people started like a gossip website, and. I had my article, The Greg Gatsby, which makes no sense. It makes no sense. It's stupid.
It sounds great.
It does sound good, but it doesn't make sense because Gatsby was the guy and he was great. It's like, what's the Greg Gatsby?
Greg Gatsby.
It's like, if Gatsby was like, a storyteller, and they were like, the great storyteller, and then I just turned it into the Greg, sure, that would work. But it's like, it made it's dumb. But
it's just the sound of it sounds good.
But people would write, like, seriously, they would write things about other people at school. And the way we got around it was we took the first letter of their first name and put it as the first letter of their last name. And the first letter of the last name was the first letter of the first name. Now, if somebody had the same...
so I'd be Potham.
Yeah, we would just spell it like that. It would be harder to pronounce. If somebody had the same letter, I don't know what would have happened, but I think you would just move on to an additional letter. Until
you'd figure it out. Cross that bridge when you come to it.
So, like, I wrote an article called Lost and Found. It was supposed to be a series, but this website got shut down. And I wrote about this one guy losing his virginity to someone else over spring break. Because
he lost his virginity, but he found love?
No, maybe you're getting a little too deep with it. I wrote it like a missing raincoat or something. It's like last seen. I was like, so-and-so has lost his virginity. It was last seen in Panama City Beach with so-and-so.
Okay.
And then you give a few more details. And like, if found, please return for small reward.
Okay.
He didn't like it. He approached me. He's like,
Well, I
"Why'd you
wish
do
it
this
was
to me?"
more. I wanted it to be more.
Well, too bad.
Yeah.
Sorry
You didn't have
to
your
let you
writing
down.
bones yet. You didn't
I'm
have
sorry.
those bones. You had it. You had it for your own personal weirdness, but not like.
It was matter of
putting
fact. It
out
wasn't
there.
poetry. It was the
Okay, I just wanted it to be.
classified
wanted it to be
thing.
deeper.
It wasn't. This was newspaper
Okay.
reporting. There was function to it. This wasn't art. And
Did it
then
get a
that
lot
guy
of
approached
traction?
me.
You got a lot of play at school?
Oh yeah, it didn't go well. I mean, people liked it and they thought it was amazing, but the guy didn't like it, and it was pretty shitty of me. And he
Jeremy
approached
didn't
me.
like it?
It was somebody I had gone to school with for like throughout elementary school, and he was much bigger.
Oh,
than me.
you
He could have kicked
used
my
him.
ass. He could have kicked my ass.
Yeah.
But he said, why did you do this to me? Why would you do this? It wasn't like he even came in and threatened to beat me up. He was just hurt. And I maintained, I was like, I'm a journalist. I have to report the news. I apologize. It just had to be done. It was shitty. I think it's interesting to bring this up now. You weren't on the podcast the other day, but I was talking about on the podcast how when I was younger, we would do weird things, but quite often I wouldn't want to hurt other people. And I do think that that's true. Like, people would pick on like the weaker people or the less popular people. And I didn't really have any desire to do that. But this guy was a football player, and not by being a football player, it doesn't make you a bad person. And he was popular. So obviously there was some lashing out at all of that. And I drew some sort of distinction where it's like, no, he's allowed to be picked on. And I don't even know if he picked on other people. Just because he was in that group doesn't mean he did. I mean,
Right.
A lot of people do when they're in that group. But I look back and it was a shitty thing. So I guess I was shitty just like every other kid. And every other...
Well, you're a kid. What are you going to do?
Every other human being. So, all right. Well, we never started the show. So I guess we just have to end the show
Okay.
with the music. There was no official start. It's going to really throw people for a loop. It's going to make
I really loved this episode,
It's
though.
going to make people uncomfortable.
It's amazing how good we are at just talking to each other.
When I'm in the right mood.
That is very true. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much. Love you. Hope you have a good week. Enjoy, manja. Go out and do something cool. And tell us about it. Bye.
Oh my God, it's not uploading.
Oh, God.
Oh, fuck. I gotta turn this there. It's so goddamn hot.
God. Oh, my God.
It's so fucking hot. It's not uploaded.
Man, so did you hear the beginning of the show when Eric wasn't on?